And what's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. I hope you're having a phenomenal Friday wherever you may be. Welcome to another episode of A and B Conversations. And we are your host. I am the A in the A and B Conversations, Anthony Manalo, and this is your phenomenal co-host.
What up, man? It's Ben. Let's go.
Let's go, Ben. Let's go. So we're gonna break down the characters, the same character from last week, just going in depth. Well, first and foremost, we're using something called the DISC assessment, which is a phenomenal tool to help people understand themselves and just understand why they keep running into the same roadblocks again and again, or how they can just leverage who they are to get where they want to go and just to maximize themselves. Right. But Ben, let's go ahead and rock from there.
I no doubt, man. Let's introduce now. Let's go.
Let's go. So we've been watching this movie called The Old Guard, and this Old Guard movie has just characters just embody the characteristics of the disc so well. And one of the characters' names are Nile Freeman, and she represents a character we call the Grounds Crew. Now, the Grounds Crew has specific characteristics. First, they're eager to help and support other people. They're always on the lookout about how they can add value, what value can they add to other individuals. They're cautious and slower in decision making due to its impact on others. They're looking at it from the lens of, I love it, the empathetic lens. How is this going to affect them? How is it going to affect them and their family? How is it going to affect the third generation, fourth? They're thinking about everybody in the picture. And when they're thinking about everybody in the picture, they start to see how it affects them and how it's going to affect, they're going to start, they can get a little too deep inside their head about that stuff if they're not careful about it. And the last part is under pressure, they become too willing to help and give into the decision of other people, right? So somebody might ask them to do something and they, in their eyes, they don't want to do it. Inside, they don't want to do it because somebody else asked them. They're automatically going to say yes, like, yes, I can support. Yeah, I'll go with you, when it's not really going to be that helpful, right? And those are just some of the characteristics, but just phenomenal individuals. Everybody should have them on their team in order to see their team succeed. But let's go ahead and take it from there, Ben.
No doubt. Yeah, we're gonna expound upon all the ideas that Ant just shared, and we're gonna look at it from this scene right here. So if you've watched The Old Guard, if you've been watching us, like this is Nile Freeman, and she recently just died at war, right? And then out of nowhere, if you can see in the top left-hand corner, she wakes up and she notices she doesn't have a scar on her neck where the guy sliced her and she died. And she's just there stunned, wondering like, what the hell happened to me? What's wrong with this scar? And it's just like, she's just, you could say an emotional wreck, but she's not emotional, but you could just see like all these thoughts going through her head and she's like worried and concerned for her life. She doesn't know what to think. And then as she's going through all of that, her two best friends walk in on her and she's just like, hey friends. I know one of them was Dizzy. I don't know the other guy's name. She just looks at them and she feels uncomfortable looking at them or whatever because she knows what she's going through. And then they look at her weird and they're like, yo, let me see your trophy, meaning the scar. They want to see the scar on her neck. And she points to she looks at she shows them the neck and there's no scar there. There's like, there's no scar. And she's like, no, it's cool. They used some skin graft machine and they got rid of the scar. And the other friend's a little bit more skeptical. She's like, yo, is that what the doctors told you? And then at which point, now it's like, yeah, she hesitates and says, yeah. And then automatically she just walks up and goes away. And you could just see her friends stare at her. One of them is looking at with disgust and one of them is looking at her like she's weird or what the hell is going on. Like they're scared, but this is their best friend and they don't even know how to navigate this conversation. Now doesn't know how to navigate the conversation, so she rushes out. At which point, the scene flips and she's just working out. And while she working out, she's coping. Like she don't know what the hell is going on. Working out feels good, so she's working out. And in the midst of her working out, one of her commanders comes through, be like, yo, we took your dog tags off your neck because we thought you were dead. So here go your dog tags. And also pack your bags. We're shipping you somewhere else. And she was like, what you mean? I'm fine. I've been doing my job well. He was just like, you're going. Like, in the military, like you can't argue commands and orders and stuff like that. So she had no time to argue or prove her point. She just had to go. And then at which point she goes back into the hut or whatever, and her friends are there, they're chilling, they're laughing and everything like that. And as soon as they notice her presence, they go silence. I don't know if you've ever been in one of those situations where it's just like when you walk in, it's like a dark cloud walks into the room and everybody dies. And that's exactly what
you
happened to
know,
her.
you know it's you at that point.
Yeah. And it's just like, it ain't like, yo, you, like, because let me clarify, because there are some people who bring dark clouds with them, but
Yeah.
she's not that type of person. Usually people love to see her. She's supportive. She's loving. She's caring. She's considerate. So for people to treat her like that, it had to be weird for her. And it was really awkward. At which point, she goes to pack up her bags and her bags are already packed up and she knows her friends did it. And now she's just like, yo, are these really my friends? She looks at the wall. She looks at their picture. She takes a second look at them and she just rushes out. Says nothing and just goes. And at which point she just plugs in her earphones, sits by herself and kind of mourns in a sense, right? It's just like, what the hell has happened to me? Like, I need to take a breather and figure my life out.
That's big. That's big. Right. And I just want to highlight a few things within those scenes. The first thing is, this is an overwhelming situation for anybody. It's in the movie, she had died in the movie, at which point, at this point, she is back to life. And she doesn't know how she came back to life at this point. She has superpowers. We find that out in the movie. But she lies about what's going on with her neck. She said, the doctors gave me a new skin graft. And you see the nurse turns over to her. That's not what happened. But she doesn't know how to process through this. It's difficult for anybody to understand, but for her specifically, and people with this personality type, processing through these types of things is a little bit more challenging. And just to emphasize something else, grounds crew are very, very loyal individuals, and these people have been through hell together. They've been training together. They were at war together. They've been at battles together. They're supposed to be the ride or dies, the people that got your back. So when she had gone back to the tent, at which point she saw her bags packed up, and the people are just looking at her, the ride or dies are looking at her. It's like, we don't know you anymore. Like, you need to get out of here. We packed your bag so you can leave. At that point, that's one of the sharpest pains that I believe somebody can experience. It's like the close connection, something that they value to a very high degree. It's snapped at that point because of this unknown. So somebody that is really drawn towards people, that have a behavior to be drawn towards people, she doesn't have people around her anymore. Like the closest people, it's just like snapped. So her world is just in disarray. Right? It's a moment where everything just shifts. Everything you thought you knew, it's just vanished. And you're just like, you're there sitting by yourself.
You know what's deep about what you just said?
What is that?
Knowing that now is the high grounds crew and that she's empathetic, I'm sure she understands why her friends are doing that to her.
Yep.
Like, she could literally put herself in their body and be like, yo, I understand why you're pissed at me. Like, it's my fault. Like, I died and came back to life. I'm weird.
Yeah. The empathetic lens, she's thinking about what they're thinking about, how they're thinking about her. And it looks like a weird situation. Somebody that dies, come back to life. What is the world gonna think? Oh man, now that's directed towards me. So it's just this mix of emotions that's going on inside of her at this point.
Here's the thing. They're justified in their assumptions and behavior towards her. They're not the problem. She is. She's the one who came back to life. She's the one who doesn't have the scar. She's the weirdo.
Man, that hurts. That's the first time I've ever heard you say that, man. That stings right there. But that's true.
And you can see it in the look in her eyes. Like, while she's working. And that's not the look of somebody who's like, yo, my friends just betrayed me. That's the look of somebody that's like, yo, what's wrong with me? What's happening to me?
And you know what the tricky thing is? In this particular case, she's actually the individual where the problem is with her. But I believe in other cases, there isn't a problem with the person. It's just their perception of the other person, what they're thinking of them. Right? I know it sounds like this whole Inception Matrix type of thing, like, oh, this leads to that, that leads to this. But let me try to say as clear as possible. What I'm thinking about what Ben is thinking about me, and I think if I think that Ben doesn't like me, I'm gonna start acting like it. I might start to shy away, whatever may be, right? And I think one of the tricky things about that And then do me a favor, go ahead and just click to exit full screen on there. We all good, right? But one of the tricky things about that is the way that I start to perceive and the way I start to act around Ben, it's gonna be a little bit different, right? But in this particular case, now there's something wrong with her. It's as if like there's something wrong with me and Ben was looking at me with a certain type of way and he'd be justified in it. Like, yo, something changed about you. I think that's super deep, Ben.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. And I like how you, because in the movie, and even in the movie, it still ain't fair. Because nobody really knows what's happening.
Mm.
So they're prejudiced. They're prejudging the situation and prejudging her. It is weird, but we still don't know what's at the bottom of this. But
Yeah.
We could go to the next slide and really get into today's topic of conversation. We want to talk about the strength, the skill, the talent that the S has and what they bring to the table in their life, in their relationships, and at works. Like why we value them so much and why they're so important to society. But at the same time, and give me that definition one more time.
I love it. Robert Rome said, "A weakness is a strength taken too far."
I love it. So just like for them, the same reason they excel in some areas of their life is the same reason that they may struggle in certain areas of their life because of the same characteristic. And for today's topic, is just like because Nile is calm, she's patient, she's struggling in relationships and in life. Like that same characteristic, and I could apply it to me. So when you really think about this situation and you read the definition of being calm or the characteristic that the S brings to that is, yo, they're not easily triggered or explosive, right? Like when something goes bad, when something goes wrong, when somebody snaps on them or a situation doesn't go how it should go, even if they expected it to be that way, they have a tendency to be able to remain rational and objective. And what does that mean? It's just like, yo, I can think logically in this situation and I'm objective. I'm not thinking about what just happened to me. I'm thinking about the whole spectrum of how this not only affects me, how this affects everything that I care about and the people I'm interacting with. And here's what's deep. Like I said, I'm objective about it. Internally, if this was subjective, yo, I'm stressed and I'm highly emotional. I'm overwhelmed. But I can still act in that situation as if I'm not. Can't nobody tell what I'm going through. Right?
That's big.
This is a perfect example of that. So I wish Nile could have just blown up because I know she wanted to blow up. But her friends wouldn't have known that she really wanted to blow up because she just walked away. So I wish I could jump into her friend's body and think, like, what do they think of her right now? Because she handled it so calmly and so gracefully, right? So let me hear what you think about that.
I think something that's super deep is that walking away in that situation, she has something going on internally and she walks away, and it would have been better for her to, like you said, blow up, express it, say something of that nature. But if you give the same thing to a person with a different, say, for example, someone that has a naturally short fuse or somebody that naturally is more aggressive, determined, vocal about what they're saying, like if you ask them to do the same thing, it would have been good for them. But in her particular case, because of the way that she's wired, like the same action is going to have a different result. Like in her particular case, she went from calm to passive, right? She's naturally calm, and then her friends kicked her out and she's going through all these emotions. She should blow up, but she walks away and now she's forced to deal with it by herself, right? But say, for example, you put someone with a more aggressive personality in there. If you naturally, they would just blow up in that situation, right? But if they had walked away, they start to process through their thoughts. They start to process through the situation, and then they come back and they will come back calm. I'm just like looking at it. That's crazy. It's like the same action with a different character is going to give you different results, right? So where are you?
Here's what's deep about that. And that's why this self-awareness is so key, right? And you said it, you said it best. And if I understood you correctly, you're saying if somebody that's more easily triggered or who has a shorter fuse, they would have snapped in that situation. However, she has a longer fuse, therefore she didn't snap. So the question is, what's the best way to handle the situation if you're even one of the people?
That's big.
Right?
That's big.
First, you got to understand you. That's the first step. Like the person with a short fuse don't know they have a short fuse. They think it's the other person. This person with a long fuse doesn't know she has a long fuse. She thinks it's her.
That's big. You know the crazy thing about that is I was thinking about this term. It's the common term is an apple a day keeps the doctor away, right? Have you ever heard that before, Ben?
Yeah, I have.
Right? An apple a day keeps the doctor away. But what happens if the person is allergic to apples? Right? You throw out this general information to all these people expecting it to work for everybody, but if you give the same information to 100 people, they're going to get different results. Why? Because that information doesn't work for everybody. So
No,
unless, like you said, we have that level of self-awareness, of understanding towards other people, we could be dishing out advice that works for us that but could just be dangerous for them, right?
mm,
Oh, talk about it, right? What if they talk just like in a very angrily way, which point the people they're speaking with, they don't receive that really well, but that's the way that you and your culture work. It works there. Now you give that advice to somebody who doesn't operate that way and their culture doesn't operate that way, then it's like they get rejected as a result.
oh, no doubt. So, and still, like, we're still think, like, if you really think about it, and we could, for context, still do that thing where we're thinking somebody who has a long fuse, say a high S, and somebody who has maybe a shorter fuse, a high D or I, right?
Go for it.
So again, this is an emotionally dense atmosphere, right?
Hmm.
People can easily be triggered, and mind you, now is triggered. Like, she's going through it internally. She's stressed. She's emotional. She's feeling something there. So the question is, in this scene, like, this is just one scene. It's just like, imagine this in an intimate relationship.
Hmm.
Imagine it at work, where you have to go back the next day into that same environment.
Hmm.
Can you imagine staying that calm over an extended period of time? That wasn't a solution. It was a patch.
Hmm.
And that's where it becomes a problem. So there are certain situations where, yes, it's smart to remain calm, not to go off. Yes, it's smart to just walk away. But really look at the situation, look at the environment. It's going to be smart to speak up about what you're feeling, because people don't know what
Yeah.
you're going through. They can't tell that you're internally stressed and emotional about the situation. And in this
That's
situation,
good.
it's different, right? Like, and at work, it's just like, yo, if you got a high, for a high S, if you got a high D boss or C that's really super critical, they're being critical and they want the best for you, but they don't know they're damaging your self-esteem
Hmm.
because they have high expectations because they have those same expectations for you. They do things fast and at a high level, and they want you to do things fast and at a high level. But because of the grounds crew, yo, we got some blocks that prevent us from executing. One, we need clear instructions. We
Yeah.
need that step by step, and we need somebody to slow down and fully explain everything before we go. We're not risk takers. So when somebody who expects us to take risks and just move at a fast pace like that, and we're unable to do it, we can't really do our jobs correctly, and therefore we're not
You're
executing.
adapting.
That may upset the relationship, and that
Yep.
person snap, but they're not understanding what we're going through, and we feel as though they're justified in snapping.
Yeah.
So we hold on to that internally. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. And as you're speaking, I just thought of an analogy, right? And it's the analogy you said a patch, but I want to think about it as a band-aid. So say for example, something where if you have a cut and then you just put a band-aid on top of it, you don't clean it, you just leave it as it is, at which point you just put a band-aid on top. Man, there's a chance that thing is gonna get infected, and then because it's not addressed, it's gonna stay and it has a chance to become infected. It's gonna start to ooze, change color. It's gonna have a certain odor to it, and I think that's very similar to if, say, for example, a grounds crew or somebody holds something internally and they don't really address it in a healthy manner. They're calm, but then they become passive about it. Oh, it's gonna take care of itself. Oh, it's gonna fix itself. Oh, it's gonna fix itself, right? And then I know we're saying passive, right? And passive, the body heals itself. That's just the way that the body heals. But sometimes you have to help it along by cleaning it. There's certain things that aren't gonna fix themselves. And when it comes to that internal struggle, the internal pain, if like you have an issue with somebody because you're, in your example, the boss treated you the way that they wanted to be treated, the way that they operate, they held you to that standard. You guys aren't built the same, and now you're internally torn with your boss. You're internally torn, telling your boss, inside again. I'm inside, of course. Like, that's not how I operate. It's like, that was unfair. You did not give me clear cut instructions, and you can't even say anything. That's inside of you. That's going to start to fester. That's going to start to turn into passive aggressiveness. That's going to turn into maybe not giving it 100%. Like, oh, my boss doesn't care about me. Distrust towards the boss.
No doubt. And here's what's deep. And we're going to look at this overuse of that strength. That's where we're going with that passiveness, right? So when you look at the description we have for that passiveness, is they have a tendency to hold in their frustrations with other people so they don't upset relationships. There's an assumption there. There's a belief there that if you speak up about what you're feeling, it's going to upset the other person and therefore the relationship. That ain't always true.
Huh. Debunk that, right? I think there's gonna be people listening to this that we need to debunk it for them.
Yeah, and that was me, guys. Like, yo, like there was this assumption, and that's why we want to. Come on, I gave you that quote the other day. Until we make the, do you remember it?
Until we make the unconscious conscious, then we will live by the unconscious and call it fate.
I love it. So what the quote says is, until we make the unconscious conscious, it will rule our lives, and we will call it fate. But what that means is, like, yo, there are certain things, there are certain assumptions, there are certain beliefs that we have that we don't know we have, that we don't know is causing, is self-sabotaging us. So one of the beliefs for the grounds crew is that if we speak up about the feelings, that if we tell people no, it's going to upset the relationship. So we don't know that we're upsetting our relationships ourselves because we aren't being true. I told you this quote before too. I heard it from Inky. And really, if you're a grounds crew and you're listening to this, really think about this in intimate relationships, like with a kid, with a wife, with a mother or father, somebody that you really care deeply about, right? What it said is, truth without love is brutality, right? A lot of people could tell the truth, but they ain't got no love about it, right? They'll straight up hurt your feelings, call you stupid, call you dumb, call you whatever they want to call you. They're telling the truth, but they're not saying it in a sensitive way in which you can receive it. But then you got that other category of people where it's just like they don't tell you the truth, but they're kind, right? So the other part of that quote goes, but the truth, no, the other part of the quote. All right, so the first part of the quote is, honesty without love is brutality, but love without honesty is hypocrisy. Love without
honesty. Man.
So just like ground school, we got a tendency to love. We love deeply. We're very loyal, but we go on with that. And it depends on what your definition of love is, right? So my definition ain't the definition that other people subscribe to. But me personally, like, I've grown to believe that if you really love the person, like, tell the truth. It'll set you and the relationship free.
You know what the challenging thing about that is? And the phenomenal, shout out to Inky Johnson, phenomenal individual. The most difficult thing about that is if a person doesn't have truth and they just call it love, whatever you want to call it, and they don't have truth, at that point they can turn into an enabler, right? And that's something that's a little scary because you think you're protecting the person by not telling them the truth. You're sparing them their feelings, but as you're sparing them their feelings, you're I would go as far as to say you're preventing their growth. Right? Or you're not contributing to their growth or them addressing whatever issue it may be. And in a way, that's not love, right? You can call it love, but it's not.
Here's what's deep. I'm not tripping about, and this is why I really believe that quote. I'm not telling you the truth because I don't want to make you mad. I'm telling you the truth because I'm not telling you the truth because I don't want to make you mad at me.
Say that one more time. Say that one more time.
I'm telling the truth because you're going to go off and do something stupid, not accept the truth or whatever it is. I'm telling you the truth because I don't want you to be mad at me. I don't want you to shoot the messenger.
It's the relationship aspect at that point, right? It's you care about the person, but you care about the relationship that you two hold, at which point I'm not going to tell the truth because it's going to hurt the relationship that we have because you're going to think I'm trying to hurt you or something of that nature.
Bruh, I was listening to E.T. this on Monday and it resonated so much. And I'm going to come back to this dichotomy right here. So listening to E.T., he was talking about there was a situation, right? He's a high. So before in the past when he wasn't as mature as he is now, he had a short fuse to blow up on people. when they
Hmm.
lied, when they did untrustworthy things, and he didn't have all the facts.
Sure, sure.
And he might have had a tendency to be like, you did this, and they're just like, no, I didn't. And he's just like, but it's just like, somebody told me that you did this, so I believe what they said. So, but now he's more mature.
Sounds familiar, Ben. You preaching right now. He sounds familiar.
Yeah, but now he's just like, that person ain't God. I know I trust this person, but you tell me the truth from your perspective. Like, I want to hear your perspective on this before I pass judgment. Right? So that's sure. But what he said is somebody did something in their business that he really didn't condone, and the person lied about it. So he confronted the person and had a conversation, and the person lied again. Finally, the person that got caught, they had another conversation, and he was just like, yo, look, we have a really great relationship here, and we really work well together. I want this relationship to continue, and you do really great work. He was just like, yo, you're not a bad person. And I get the sense that you lied to me off the strength that you didn't want to upset the relationship.
Wow.
You lied to me because you didn't want me to get mad at you for lying. I mean, for what you did. You were trying to preserve the relationship. It's like, look, I free you from that. Don't ever feel as though you can't tell me the truth. Don't feel as though you have to lie to me in order to preserve our relationship. He didn't get that. He didn't understand. He thought he was helping the relationship by lying. ET won't find out, and therefore we're gonna be good. But he the wrong mindset.
Man, I love that right there. I need to process through that real quick. Right.
So what he said.
Go for it.
So
Right. I want to think it through. Go for it.
What he said was, look, I value this relationship. So let's find out how we can make this work.
Yep. Right.
That's a different type of value. The other person valued the relationship, so he felt as though he had to lie. He values the relationship. He's like, no, let's be truthful and honest with each other. When we make mistakes, we admit it so we can fix it. We don't sweep it under the rug so we don't upset relationships. He had a different mindset. Go ahead.
I like it. If from the perspective of the grounds crew, right? Your love for the other person as well as for the relationship has to be greater than your fear of harming the relationship in order to tell the truth, right? That sounded good. I feel like I'm going to clip that right there. Your love for the other person and the relationship that you hold has to be greater than your fear of what telling the truth will do to the relationship, right? Damn, that was so good. The whole value system is so important too. It's not just understanding the behaviors, but what does the other person value? Because man, the results, if you look at the results, you're just going to see that this person lied. But if you have to look at behind it, like what is the intent? Why did that happen? Why did it happen like that? So you can start to go to the root. And it's not, preserving a relationship is not bad whatsoever, or caring for another person. It's just when you care about the person so much that the external, the outside starts to shift to, okay, I'm going to lie because I care so much about that person, right? And there's just some things that aren't healthy.
And it's just like when you're in that situation, you don't know. Because I ain't going to hold you. I'm guilty. I do that. I can't even say I'm fully healed from that aspect of life right there. You know? Where it's just like, I remember, and I have to tell the truth now, and it's just like I do this with my wife, I do this with my mother. Like I have these confessions where it's just like, oh, there's something that I didn't tell you that I had to that I should have tell you that you won't find out, but I'm gonna tell you because I value the relationship.
Yeah.
Like I just want that type of relationship with the people that I'm with now. But before, my value was just like, yo, I take stuff to the grave because I don't want you to be pissed off. So we come to look at this where it becomes so the same reason why, again. Don't even look at calm. Just the whole definition of strength and weaknesses, right? A strength is
limitations,
just like
not weaknesses, limitations.
Limitations, right? A strength is something that you're naturally good at. And limitation is when you take that strength too far and it hinders you from taking relationships or life to the next level. So what do we know about a high S? You're loyal, right? You value fairness and justice, right? You care about other people. and therefore people care about you and they allow you into their circle, they allow you to support, and you're a very good team member. But because you care so much about the team and about the people, you don't want to hurt them, and therefore unintentionally you lie to them so you can preserve the relationship, what actually makes the relationship worse.
Hmm. Bars, bars, bars. Oh my gosh. My gosh, we could go all day long with this, Ben. But man, let's start to land this plane because I know we've been circling around or we touched on various topics, right? But I think a big portion of it is what's happening internally inside of the S, right? I think we can land on that and give an action step towards that because again, we talked about relationships, we talked about what's happening internally, we talked about perspectives, right? But what can we give to the high grounds crew for the people who go from calm to passive, right? And something just happens within. What can we recommend to those individuals for action steps that they can take?
So we said it already. One, you had that assumption that if you tell the truth and express your feelings, it's going to hurt the relationship. You have that assumption. So now you do that without even thinking about it because you value the relationship. So one, we need to be able to admit that, yo, I have an issue speaking up about what I'm feeling because I have this fear that is going to make the situation worse. Let's free ourselves from that, right? And then once we're able to free ourselves from that, then we learn how to have a conversation. And so what I've learned personally as a high S is I go into the situation and be like, hey, I love how this conversation goes, right? So I just walk, somebody treats me unfairly. Because what I would assume before is just like this person had good intent. They didn't mean to hurt me. Everything is okay. But now it's just like you're looking at me funny. You said something that I didn't approve of. You said something that I didn't like. I know how to confront you about it in a peaceful manner. I go up to you like, hey, I noticed on XYZ date, you did something that I didn't really approve of. You did something that made me feel some type of way. It made me feel upset. It made me have a low self-esteem, and I really didn't appreciate that. Why did you do that?
Yeah.
Like, what were you trying to accomplish by doing that?
That's big.
Okay, so now we know what this person was trying to accomplish. We know two things. One, if they want to preserve the relationship or if they want to end the relationship. If they want to preserve the relationship, we have one type of conversation. And that type of conversation is, yo, I forgive you. I understand why you did what you did. Let's find a way to work this out so we don't have to deal with this in the future. If they don't want to preserve the relationship, be like, oh, that's how it is. You have no desire to change? You felt as though it was okay to treat me like that? We could go our separate ways.
They have to have the courage to go the separate ways first, right? That's a whole nother lesson right there. But I think you hit it right on the head. In terms of action step, once you start to have that internal dialogue, it's like a house divided against itself cannot stand. You start to go back and forth against yourself. Odds are there's something going on inside of you that's just not being addressed, right? And if it's a conversation that needs to be had with the other person, Ben just gave you a blueprint too. Like this is what happened. This is objectively, this is what happened. Subjectively, this is how it made me feel. Why did you do that? You know, I think something big too is ground crew. You guys like the structure, right? Like you guys know how things are gonna go, like systems that are put in place, and that's similar between ground crew as well as air traffic controllers. You just like the consistency piece, right? You have to have the structure in order to be consistent. So this is a structure that can be put into place that you're not stepping in blind when you have to have these types of conversations with other individuals. Once you have the structure, like you have the consistency piece, like you could do this again and again and again because you have the structure. It gets a little bit easier, you know. But sheesh, man, Ben, that was phenomenal. Do you have any last thoughts?
Here's the final piece, at least that I understand now. Just like the grounds crew doesn't know that they're withholding their emotions and that they're assuming that by telling them the truth, it's going to hurt their feelings. The other personality types, whether it's the D who's being really too aggressive or demanding, or the I who's asking them to go out too much, or the C who's always correcting them, they don't know that they're asking you for too much. They're just placing the same expectation that they place on themselves on you. So they're literally unaware. So just like
Okay.
you're wired to be passive, they're wired to be energetic, demanding, or perfectionist.
Hmm.
They just do it naturally. So until you had that conversation from a place of clarity and from a place of maturity and understanding, you won't know why they were treating you that way, and they won't realize they were treating you that way. So honestly, man, have the conversation.
There you go. Have the conversations. Have the conversations. Well, y'all, phenomenal Friday. Another episode down. I hope y'all had it. You guys learned something, especially y'all grounds crew. We appreciate you guys. Keep on rocking. Please put this stuff into practice. Like we enjoy talking, but we love seeing transformation even more. Man, we will see you guys same time, same place next week. I'm your host, Coach Ant. I'll see you guys next time. Ben Bakayoko. Go ahead
Yeah.
and let's go. We out. See y'all next week.